Yeah. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 53 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I'm here with my main man, Bill at Super Dupaflex, who's hiding from all of us right now. And special guest. He is the one, the only, the Dynasty Outhouse. Russ, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I feel like an ass. I wasn't well. It's 9:10, and I was hoping to be all smooth and awesome and pop in the middle of them talking and just interrupt them like I do so well, because watching other people talk when I can get to talk. And I was gonna make some horrible joke about being like a bad husband, bad old man, where I forgot our anniversary or something like that. But then I was gonna be like, no, I'll make a bad joke about being an old man and that the fact that I fell asleep at 9 o'clock, and then let the listeners choose which one to believe, because it is in fact one of those. And since I told you guys already, and let's face it, if people have ever listened to me before, they know I start getting tired at like 8:30. So yeah, I absolutely fell asleep at 9 o'clock last week and just missed the show. So happy 1 year and 7 days, fellas.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome, and I don't think it needs to be one or the other, Russ. You can just be our bad sleepy husband. You
I
are
mean,
the
that's where I'm a Viking, man. That's what I do.
you
It's
are the
my everyday.
official bad sleepy husband of the fantasy timeline. No one has ever held that before. It is yours now, and no one
And
will ever take it away from you.
it will take some real sleepy grumpy talent to bypass my level of bad husbandry.
It's funny talking about grumpiness. Bill and I were chatting earlier, and I said, Bill, I think I'm starting to turn into the grumpy old man. And he goes, wait a minute, I thought I was the grumpy old man. And I was like, yeah, I'm starting to catch up now. So,
Okay, no, we need to talk about this because there was one time, and I don't even, it was like months ago at this point, and it's like right when you guys joined DAP and everything. I think it was honestly the first episode. I'm remembering it now. It was the first episode we were going to upload onto the network. And Bill was like, maybe we should wait to the next one because I was kind of super grumpy on this one. So I'm like, well, no, now we're absolutely putting this on and we're letting everyone know you were grumpy while it happened. So I listen and I'm like, all right, when's he get the show's up? Bill, I don't think you understand what the word grumpy means because I did not hear any grumpiness that entire time. So if you're catching up to Bill's level of grumpy, then man, you still got ages to go to catch up to what I was doing, what the grumpiness I felt when I was in my mid-20s, and I am not in my mid-20s anymore.
My grumpiness is all internalized. I think that's what it is. Like I try to keep it all in, but like sometimes I think that projects out, and apparently it didn't. Like I re-listened to it afterwards, and I was surprised at how little venom I was spitting, because the way I felt during that whole episode was pretty rough. So yeah,
Just means you got to try harder next time.
There you go. I'll get grumpier as we progress. Don't worry.
Bill has the Canadian definition of grumpy in his head. So that when he says he's grumpy, it's kind of like on the Canadian scale of grumpiness, so to speak.
Yeah, you're the furthest north. Actually, no, I guess Dustin got you beat for furthest north of the DAP, but I was gonna try and say your closest thing we have to a Canadian, but it's absolutely Dustin.
But like I actually live north of Canada, so, and Dustin doesn't. Like,
Ooh.
Yeah, it's okay.
Actually, because Detroit is north of Canada because there's a part where the river dips.
Yeah.
If you're not watching, both Bill and I did a swooshing thing with our hands to show. Oh yeah, that's right, it does that.
And I want to apologize for my audio because it's shite. And yeah, we'll try.
Okay.
By next week.
So there was at one point last episode, like I said, I just finished listening to it, and I can't remember whose situation you were talking about, but you said the word shite like 6 times in 10 words, and it was phenomenal, and I was laughing by myself in my car.
I was drunk last week.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
So now that we got all the pleasantries out of the way, why don't we hit the news, since we have Russ here for a little bit. So we're just gonna hit the highlights here. Thursday, Packers 49ers. Biggest highlights. Aaron Rodgers, 305 with 4 touchdowns, and Devontae Adams goes 10 for 173 and a touchdown. They're both really good. Bill, is there anything?
Yes.
Is there anything else you pulled from the game?
Well, I just pulled that Russ traded for Devontae Adams and released today, and I feel like you got a pretty good price on that.
I feel like I got a phenomenal price. I mean, let's just call it out for what it is. I sent DJ Chark and what will be early to mid first. It definitely won't be bottom 3, which is what made me feel good about it. And for Adams. And the reason I did this was because last week, Dustin decided to blow his team up. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, it's me. I got to go get Devontae Adams because I love Devontae Adams. I don't care how much of a progressive struggle I'm doing. Devontae Adams, I need him on my team. So I sent him Shark where it was my first, which, again, I thought was going to be the 101, but people did some bad drafting, I guess. So I sent him Shark and my first for Adams, which I knew was low, but I'm like, why not try it? He comes back to me with Shark, his first and his second, which, again, he's bombing, so why the hell am I going to give away his first? So screw that noise. I said no. And then I let it go. And then he comes out today and says, I'm moving Adams. I'm like, all right, no, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be a good struggler. And then he just DMs me. He's like, you want to do it for that deal you offered last time? And I'm like, well, I can't say no to that. I thought it was low last week. So, yeah, I mean, I took it, and chances are he will not be on my team in the next few weeks. But for now, I'm going to just relish in the Devontae Adams just goodness.
I love that trade for you. I mean, there's literally not anything bad I can say about it. So,
except that, finally Minshew goes away, Luton comes in and gives Shark 15 targets or something like that.
Yeah, for the next 6 weeks, sure. Well,
targets is a little different between those two.
I mean, next year it'll probably be, Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, but for this year, whatever.
I'm absolutely fine with it. So
it's Jake Luton. I think we'll all survive.
Hey, baller, man.
So, Bill, you grab anything from that game, or you want to move on?
No, Devontae Adams is just such a stud, and he is truly Aaron Rodgers, best friend. So that kind of just be incredible. I think look forward to Lazard coming back because really none of the other wide receivers have been very consistent. So that's really it. San Fran's in a big pile of poop. So they're still decent, but they're just they're in a hard division, and I can't. I'm not really playing too many players on that offense. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Loving Devontae Adams. He is one of the cornerstones of my my best dynasty team right now, which is 8-1. So I love it every time he has a game like this, which seems like it's every week. So hooray! Next game, Broncos Falcons. Wasn't a whole ton to pull from it. Olamide Zaccheaus for 103 and a touchdown. That was literally the highlight. As soon as Calvin Ridley comes back, Olamide Zaccheaus is, back to doing whatever he was doing before that. Don't know if you guys had anything from that game, but
props to Zaccheaus for actually performing when he gets the opportunity, right? So it seems like he's had some pretty decent weeks with them, and Drew Lock crap for 3 quarters, and then just all garbage time. But he's actually an okay fantasy quarterback with that being the case.
Drew Lock in a GPP. That's all I can say. All that dude is throw. I don't think he throws passes under 16 yards, which means you're going to get maybe 2 picks, but you might get 3 touchdowns for 50 yards each. And, oh man, I didn't see it during the game, but I saw it on Twitter, and I just freaking loved it. The video of Jerry Jeudy running around and throwing his hand in the air 5 seconds before he was open, whether he was doing it to pretend he was running the post and the fact that he thought he was going to have him beat deep, or if he's like, yo, I'm putting on the brakes and this guy is not going to be able to. Either way, I damned out loud when I was watching it by myself at my computer. It was, whew.
I mean, I felt sorry for the corner just because I know if that's me running out there and he puts the hand out, I'm flying to try to keep up with him. And the second he puts the brakes on, I'm like 7 yards down the field because I have not realized that he stopped.
Yeah, but after you get beat by that, you walk up to Jerry Jeudy and be like, "Yo,
congrats!" Like, 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 bless you.
Yeah, that was good. You got me, man.
Yeah, like, so yeah, that might have actually been the highlight of that game, actually, besides Olamide Zaccheaus. But here we go. Glad we got you here, Russ, because we're gonna go to Seahawks Bills. Man, I mean, Josh Allen looks like he's playing MVP ball again. Maybe 415 yards passing, 4 total touchdowns, and I know, Russ, you've probably heard the stat that the Seahawks D is on pace to give up more than 1,000 passing yards
next game. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, past the worst passing defense in NFL history. So there's on pace right now to overshoot that by 1,000. So
they looked a little better with Carlos Dunlap being there. I loved that addition, but
it's a great addition.
A little pass rush doesn't help anything when your corners can't cover anyone. So it's inevitable that the Seahawks are just going to fade out as the season goes along because their defense is just going to get more and more tired with how much they have to be on the field. And I mean, let's face it, they can't score 45 points every week. It's a reality. Let Russ cook all he wants. It's not sustainable. As long as DK keeps getting his catches, fantasy wise, I'm fine. But it was ugly. And while I love Josh Allen and think that, yes, he is great, he's better than he was those past 2 games where he wasn't good. Anybody against the Seahawks, go start them. Like wide receivers, tight ends. I mean, running backs, they actually have a somewhat decent run defense, but still, it doesn't matter because they're going to be worried about everyone running backwards to try and catch up the pass or tackle the guy that caught the pass 10 yards down, that they're not going to think anyone's going to bother running on them. But
I think their run defense is actually decent. I mean, I remember the game earlier in the season where the Seahawks played the Cowboys. I mean, obviously the passing offense went off. I think Dak had over 500 yards in that game, but
something like that, yeah.
But they contained Zeke. I mean, Zeke didn't have a amazing game. I think he actually did most of his damage in the passing game. But I think in the run game, I think he was held to like 60-something yards or something like that. So
yeah, I mean they have Poona Ford, who's a gigantic man in the middle, and then KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner, and now that Jamal Adams is healthy again, they'll be able to stop the run, and that's fine. But man, anyone in the passing game versus Seattle, absolutely. And of course, I chose Cole Beasley in my DraftKings lineups, and because they're worse against the slot than anything else. So I figured go Cole Beasley, and everyone else but Beasley caught a touchdown. So,
well, I made do a little shameless plug here for the FTC, the Fantasy Timeline chat. During that game, I said, "Hey, Josh Allen throwing touchdowns to everyone you're not starting on your fantasy team." I mean, it was like Tyler Croft and I can't even remember Isaiah McKenzie, and it was just like
Gabriel Davis catch one probably.
Yeah, it was just like, hey, you're not starting him. I'm going to throw him a touchdown.
Yep.
So yeah, but bad defense, but I mean, I love that offense. So I just want Tyler Lockett to get a little bit more involved. My shares enjoyed the 60-point week he had, but have not enjoyed the past couple of weeks. So
it's weird to see only one guy at a time, because at the beginning of the season they were both getting theirs.
Yeah, and I think they will as the season progresses. I think it's just this is what it is right now. It's the ebbs and flows of an offense. So that's that. So Bears Titans. AJ Brown, man, 4 receptions, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. I think some people may have been sleeping on him a little bit just because of, the Titans. They've struggled the last couple of games, but just your friendly reminder from AJ Brown that he is very good.
Amen.
So I don't know if there's anyone else on those teams you want to talk about, Russ, or we can jump to the next one.
If anyone's sad about Derrick Henry only getting like 6.8 points because he only ran for 68 yards, go buy him because he has a very good schedule going forward.
Yeah, I want to trade you Derrick Henry and TA2, but we gotta work on a deal that gives me a couple of players that I like, or at least one player that I like.
I don't care about stuff you like. Just give me the guys I want.
Nah.
My league, damn it.
I mean, factually correct, but no, I will not do that. So we'll have to work something out.
I heard you bragging about Dalvin Cook on your team in HQ1 last week. Remember how you got that guy?
I do remember how I got that guy. Thank you. Yeah, actually, the cornerstones of my team were trades I made during for me, the non-point scoring season. You were in the playoffs in HQ1 last year. I was not, so I was not scoring points. So got Dalvin Cook, and then during the actual offseason, got Devontae Adams in a trade as well. So those two guys, they've led me. Yeah, they've led me to 8-1. I mean, I won't complain about that at all. So, all right, let's move on though. All right, Ravens Colts, and my question here is, are we worried about Jonathan Taylor? Like, are we panicking? Frank Reich went all old school coach. You fumble, I take you out of the game, and you sit down and you never come back in. I mean, are we worried, guys?
Go, Bill.
I mean,
I saw you
they're
on
worried, right? Like, they're worried, obviously. And I mean, it's not just one fumble, right? Like, he's fumbled a fair amount in, this first half of a season. So, yeah, I'm a little worried this year. I'm not worried long term. So, I mean, I'm not going to trade him away just because of this. It's just something, Adrian Peterson dealt with fumbles his rookie year. You just have to learn sometimes how to hold the ball. And, I don't think that there's any stories of him being like not a hard worker or anything. So I'm sure he'll put the effort into to correct that. And so I think that a lot of people might be nervous right now. And we actually have a question from the chat about that. Like, in a standard league, are you going to play Taylor or Duke Johnson for their flex? And with David Johnson being out, probably. That's a tough decision. Duke Johnson got most of the touches, so I can see where you would almost. I mean, they play Cleveland, so I'm a little worried about that. But I mean, that's a tough decision, actually, right? Like, do you guys have an idea of who you would play?
I'd play Duke. If he's going to be the only guy touching the ball, then yeah, I'm playing Duke.
Yeah.
Nothing against Taylor. It's just the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Duke is the play. He'll get his rushing yards or whatever, but he's going to be a beast in the air, and I think that's where he holds the advantage. I know this is standard, but still, the receiving yards still count. So, I'd go Duke as well, just because, again, do we have to worry about Jonathan Taylor fumbling in the first quarter and Frank Reich sitting him too? Like, that's something we have to keep an eye on now, because obviously the coaching staff is getting a little tired of the fumbling issues, and I think they're actually trying to protect Jonathan Taylor from himself a little bit. They don't want things to snowball, but I mean, whatever the reasoning is, they're taking him out, which means he can't score you points.
Well, a few things before, because I see Rocky typing in the DM, so that's about to start. To make the super, super lazy comparison, like Melvin Gordon kind of sucked when he came out in the first, mostly season. Like, remember that 3.4 yards per carry? He's terrible. He wasn't terrible. It takes time, especially when you come from Wisconsin, where I get it. The Colts have a fantastic offensive line. And if they still had Andrew Luck, this wouldn't be an issue, I don't think. Like, the fact that they have Phillip Rivers, who, let's face it, just isn't playing good, it sucks a little bit for him. So, yeah, maybe throwing in Hines and Wilkins lessens the chance for Taylor to screw up, which builds his confidence later in the season. He's that bruiser back. He does better when it gets colder out, even though they're playing a dome. And the more he rushes, the more he goes. So, yeah, it would be very, very silly to give up on Jonathan Taylor right now. Now, I'm not saying you have to start him if you have him. There's better, like we're saying, Duke Johnson, it's a close enough. I'm sure you may have better players on your team to play. But in the grander sense, absolutely not to give up on Jonathan Taylor. We know the guy is good. So there's no reason for him not to be good on a good team. I just think we got to wait till next year until the Colts get like Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
Or like someone who can chuck the ball on like Rivers, and then running lanes will open because of that.
And this may be the time that you kind of, ask the Jonathan Taylor owner, "Hey, you worried?"
Hey man, you see that fumble? Yeah, right, man. Let me take that off your hands.
Yeah, like listen, I got first round pick.
Yeah. Hey man, look, I fumbled that fumbler on when you were giving it to me. That's you're welcome.
Yeah, listen, I'll even throw in a second. I will give you a second round pick on top of the first round pick. You're winning. You're winning.
Yep.
And just see, because you know what, people panic as much as, and I say this every week, as much as we're supposed to be. We're dynasty players. We think long term, 2 to 3 year window. Trust me, there's probably a handful of guys in your league that are like panicking right now. Oh my god, he's not doing good. I got to get something for him. Okay, like I'll give you something, and that's how you keep your dynasty going. Let's see.
Just one other thing with that game. Like, I mean, it's starting Lamar, and that Lamar actually just came out, I think today, or I saw something on Twitter where Lamar said that the defenses are calling the plays out that they're running, so they know exactly what's happening. So, like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the defense
was that like Chip Kelly? Is that when that happened? Like,
I think it was, and so this is another time. So there's, maybe that's is rough. An explanation as to what's going on, and they've just kind of rested on their laurels and figured they can't stop these plays, so we're just gonna keep running them. Or, the whoever the OC is, he
Greg Roman.
He just can't. He doesn't change or evolve over time, and it seems like Roman's never stayed anywhere for a real long time. He's really good working with these running quarterbacks, but like there might be a reason for that. He just isn't. He can't evolve with the times and with other people's adjustments, and so maybe they need to at some point in time either get more creative or move on from Roman, and maybe get somebody who's actually going to be more of a passing quarterback coach. You know what I mean? And that might help, Lamar take that next step, and it'll probably help the whole offense.
All right, fellas, I got to bounce to go on to the Junkies. So happy anniversary. Congrats on the year. I love you both.
Love you too, buddy.
Hard hands. Wait. Oh, I hate that StreamYard mirrors things. I can never do things right. Love you both. Have a good rest of the show.
Right,
Appreciate you, Russ.
Bye, everybody. Oh, almost hit that end broadcast button. That would have been bad.
Ooh, don't do that one.
How do I leave?
There you go. I was going to say I'll kick him out. Dynasty Outhouse, he's the man. We appreciate him jumping on for a few minutes and just chatting with us. So yeah, back to the question, Josh. Duke Johnson would be our go on the Jonathan Taylor versus Duke Johnson question. Put him in your flex. I think you will enjoy what you see on Sunday. So we're going to move on from that game now. Chiefs Colts. Man, that was a game. I mean, the Chiefs obviously did what the Chiefs do. I'm sorry, I said Chiefs Colts. That should be Chiefs Panthers. That's my fault. Teddy Bridgewater was out there slinging it a little bit. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey came back and played so good that he might be taking this coming Sunday off. So, but he went bananas as well. So, my takeaways, Mahomes and Kelsey, my goodness. They're number ones at their position for a reason. Patrick Mahomes, 372 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Kelsey, 10 receptions for 159 yards. But, give credit to the Panthers, man. They were there. They had opportunity to win that game. And I don't think that's what a lot of people thought before that game started. And Teddy Bridgewater, man, he did his thing. He played really well, and so did Christian McCaffrey. Anything else you want to take from that game, Bill?
No, Carolina is actually an offense I want to get players on. You can kind of trust that coaching, and it's just an interesting thing. I don't think I would ever be buying the most expensive wide receiver because it looks like they do kind of spread it around a bit, and like Curtis Samuel's done really well the last 3 weeks, and DJ Moore is going to at times, and I think it's just going to be one of those offenses where these coaches are smart enough to know where to attack, and so they are going to attack certain areas, and it's going to be a different player, between Samuel and DJ Moore on who's going to pop, and it just seems like Robbie Anderson's popping every week, but I mean, I think it's that at some point defenses are going to correct, that way, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean the offense just looks really good, and that's one I want to get in like on some of the cheaper players, and even backups like look at Mike Davis, and it's just that's pretty impressive. And yeah, I mean, man, Kelsey, he is the top elite tight end. It's like a huge gap, and I mean. Kittle's there, right there with him, I guess. But then we do see that we were hoping Mark Andrews would be there, but it just seems like, he's with his offense. It's gonna be a long time before he catches up to that. Even though, but he's still very young. I think he's like 24 years old, so he's got plenty of time. But like, there's like a true top 2 tier, and then there's a big gap because now like even the point scoring for tight ends, Hockenson and Fant points per game are like in the top 6, so like I mean, it's starting to like, and that's not a good thing for all the other tight ends if those guys are already that high, I guess. So Kelsey's just incredible, and that whole offense is.
I mean, we got. I think Jimmy Graham is top 10 points per game. Like we're seeing guys that have no business being on that list, and that's what makes Kelsey it. And I know a lot of people are like, he's getting old. He's getting it. Yeah, man, he's been getting old for 5 years, and he's been tight end 1 for 5 years. And guess what? I'm going to keep taking him in startups as early as I can get him until he stops being, that top 2 guy, and it doesn't look like there's any signs of him slowing up right now. Who knows? He could be the type of guy that just 1 year it all falls apart and he ain't it anymore. But I'm going to take that risk every year until he ain't it no more.
I agree. I think that he's one of those elite players. We always say like there's the cliff for certain positions, but the elite players don't have that cliff typically. They're just elite, and they're going to play until their body won't let them. And I mean, we see Witten, we saw Gonzalez, we saw all these elite tight ends that play forever. And granted, Witten, he was never this prolific guy like that. He was a solid blocker / find the hole in the zone, that sort of thing. But like he is truly like a wide receiver out there, and he's just so smart, and he has one of the smartest quarterbacks. So like I mean, yeah, don't bet against him. I mean, I could see him at 36 being a top 4 tight end.
I mean, we're looking at it with Jimmy Graham now. Jimmy Graham was elite. He was that guy who was in that top 2, top 3 conversation for a handful of years. And guess what? It's been a handful of years since those handful of years, and he's still in that top 10 in points. Like, yeah, do you feel great about putting him in as your starter every week? No, but that he's going to get you some points and probably have a top 10 week, which at the tight end position is all you can ask for. So here we go. We got one from Trey S here, and since we're talking about the Panthers and DJ Moore's in this question, we'll throw it in here. Sorry for the big list here. Full PPR. Choose 2: DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Melvin Gordon, Fournette, Jerry Jeudy, or Marvin Jones. Thanks, guys. That is a big list. So I will start it off. One guy that I think I'm putting in there, and I don't think he'll be on Bill's list, but maybe he will. The first guy is Jerry Jeudy, actually. I think we saw the Jerry Jeudy breakout. He had now a couple of consecutive games with Drew Lock to get it, together and get that chemistry down with Drew Lock being in and out of the lineup. And I think it showed. And I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know who the Broncos play. I can look that up.
Raiders.
Okay. So not a terrible defense, but not an elite defense either, at least against the pass. And that's going to be a division game. So those games always seem to get crazy. So Judy's going to be my first one. And as much as I hate to say this, because I've been low-key slamming the guy all season, probably going to go with DJ Moore just because, he has that upside. Like, he could end the game on Sunday with like 8 receptions for 105 and a touchdown. Like he has that kind of upside where, you could get a touchdown, maybe 2, and he can hit, 100 yards and, really make your week. So I'm going to go with the receivers here, especially in full PPR. Give me DJ Moore. Give me Jerry Jeudy, who I think is on the up. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I think that those are 2 of the top 3 guys that I'm thinking. The other one is DeAndre Swift. I just think that going up against Washington, they have a really good pass defense for some reason. Like, I don't understand where that's coming from. I believe that's the case. And so I think that there's going to be a lot more of these, like, dump-offs to the running backs and that sort of thing. And so I'm probably going 2 of those 3 guys. But I think, truly, I would probably go with the same 2 that you did, Josh.
Awesome. So, Trey, I hope that helps you out, and I hope that leads you to the dub this week. So we're gonna move on to our next one here. We got the Lions and the Vikings. Bill, I always feel bad when your Lions go down because you're my boy, and I feel pain when you feel pain. I hope you don't feel my.
I don't feel pain, man. This is like, give me a break. Like, this is just a way of life. Like, honest to God, like, the years that, there was a few years where they were decent, and those are, like, you just learn to appreciate those years. The rest is just normal life.
That I hear you. Dalvin Cook went, ham. I mean, 252 total yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that dude is just a straight beast. I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts that are trying to predict what playoff schedules are going to be for your fantasy players. And Dalvin Cook has the hardest playoff schedule for running back. He's got like 3 of the top 6 run defenses in the fantasy playoffs. Guess what? I don't care. Tampa Bay, he's going to run on you. Chicago, he's going to run on you. I don't even remember what the other team is. Guess what? He's going to run on you too. Dalvin Cook is just on another level right now. The only thing that can stop Dalvin Cook is injury. If he's healthy, he's running on you. Will it be 200 yards? Maybe not Tampa Bay. Could it be 105 and 2 touchdowns? Probably. Like, I mean, the offense has, you saw weeks where Adam Thielen was getting a lot of receptions, where Justin Jefferson was getting a lot of receptions. They were going through the air. And then I think, like, Dalvin Cook was out for a week. Dalvin Cook came back and was like, hey, coach, no more of this passing stuff. I just want to run it 25 times a game. I want to catch a couple balls, and I want to get a bunch of touchdowns. And Zimmer said, okay, sounds like a plan. And that's what they've been doing ever since he's come back. So anything on that one, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, he's just awesome. And that's really nothing about it. I'm worried about the Lions offense for the rest of the year. I don't know what's going to happen. So I think, and really on the offense for the Vikings, Dalvin's really the only player I'm comfortable playing it there as well, unless you're just hoping for that week, right? Because there's Justin Jefferson weeks where he blows up, and there's ones where he kind of disappears, and it looks like Irv Smith's getting a little bit more, and it also looks like I guess Kyle Rudolph's even getting more targets. So it's one of those things where I don't feel real comfortable taking any of those players um, over somebody that I know I'm going to get consistency from a little bit. So unless I'm a major underdog, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that.
Cool. So we're gonna move on to this game here, which I don't think we're gonna talk too much about. Uh, the Giants and the Washington football team. I literally I wrote, "Do we care?" I mean, I don't think there's really a fantasy or dynasty asset that we want to spend too much time talking about. I mean, Terry McLaurin's really good. I mean, besides that, is there anyone that we're so gung ho on that we need to talk about? Nope. So we moving on. Sorry to you Giants and football team fans, but your teams just don't got a lot right now. Texans Jags. Will Fuller, 5 receptions, 100 yards, 1 touchdown, and Brandon Cooks, 3 receptions, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Gave the Jags a real problem, and I'll give the Jags credit, man. As the fantasy footballers say, booty scooting Jake Luton, just out there, just I mean, that pass to DJ Chark was like, whoa. It was like maybe this kid's got a little bit in the tank. And then, towards the end, he's doing spin moves. He thinks he's in a game of Madden, trying to get it to the end zone. Unfortunately, the 2-point conversion didn't go down. I wanted to see a little extra football with Jake Luton, but Bill, since you're a quarterback expert, what was your write up on Jake Luton when you were scouting QBs?
Yeah, he was he's actually one of those guys that was like one of the better prospect or project quarterbacks. Like him and Morgan were two of the big ones that you saw that they had like kind of the physical stature and they made the throws and but it just they're not quite refined enough and I think the vision is lacking a little bit and he played at a small school, so it's just one of those things where like it's a huge jump from where he played, and I mean, or no, he played at Oregon State.
Oregon
So
State,
I'm
yeah.
confusing him with Morgan right now. So yeah, but there was always murmurs of him being an NFL type quarterback. So I wasn't super high on him entering, but it was almost like the Minshew thing in a way because he got drafted in the 6th round and he was the backup. And it's just one of those things where he's a decent guy to add like preseason because he he only had one person in front of him, and if something happened, regardless of how good he is, he was going to get opportunities. So I mean, that's something that people need to start paying attention to more is just the depth chart for these rookie quarterbacks. Sometimes just being that second in line is such a huge advantage over somebody who's on the practice squad trying to learn, and that's just keeping those guys on your taxi squad just for instances like this.
Yeah, and I tweeted during the games last week. I said everybody in the NFL should try to trade for the next quarterback the Jags take in the 6th round because first it's Gardner, now it's Jake Luton. It just seems like they work that little bit of magic in the 6th round and draft themselves a QB that can go out there and play. I mean, Jake Luton. I mean, I get it. It's the Texans. They're not a world class defense. I understand, but to be a 6th round pick, to come out there your first game and show up like he showed up, I mean, I think it says something. So, so I'm going to keep an eye on, but we'll move on here. Raiders Chargers. Herbert, man, dude, he's so good. You know, 326, 2 touchdowns, and his main man right now is Keenan Allen, 9 receptions for 103 and a touchdown. And I just put they got robbed at home. I mean, I thought they won that game. Nobody watching TV can ever determine what the hell a catch is and what's not a catch. Marcus Peters had an interception that was in his hand for like 1.2 seconds. That's a catch, but the catch at the end of this game is not a catch. All right, I'm not going to rant anymore. But yeah, I mean, Herbert is so good, and his his connection with Keenan Allen is kind of unreal right now. They're both playing at an elite level, and I know Brian, our main man, Brian Har mentioned this on Trade Addicts the other day. Someone put out a tweet comparing Justin Herbert's stats with wow, why am I Patrick Mahomes? I forgot that name for a minute. That's terrible. Compared their stats for their first 7 starts, and it is like eerily similar. They're in passing yards, in touchdowns. Yeah, it's just, obviously the wins haven't been coming for Justin Herbert, but it's not because he's not performing. It's defense, it's crazy calls, it's things like that. But is there anything else you pulled from this game, Bill?
Well, just to follow up on what you just said, that was also the second year for Mahomes. He had a whole year to prepare. This is literally a guy coming in from college with 0 preseason and doing this. Like, it's boggling. It's just mind-boggling that this is happening. And, I mean, so he's a guy that, I mean, you can't buy him now. Nobody's going to sell him. So it's just one of those things, like, you're just stuck. I don't know. It's just a matter of, like, how much you believe that this is going to continue. Because we see a lot of quarterbacks succeed their first year, and then teams kind of figure out what their weaknesses are, and then they kind of exploit it. But just for somebody, it's just like breakout age, right? Like, you see a breakout age when somebody's really young, you have to kind of give them that credit, and that's exactly kind of what he's doing. He just jumps into the NFL and looks incredible, and he looks the part, and he makes throws like all pros, and so it's just, yeah, he is incredible. Now, the whole debate, of course, now is him or Burrow or Tua or the rookies for next year, and that's a fun debate. But I'll take any of those players. Like, it's not even like they're still all top 10 quarterbacks pretty much. So, like, it's just pick your choose which you prefer, but he's awesome. Like, it super impressive.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the 2020 or the 2020 rookies. Joe Burrow has been amazing. I mean, he's been in there since day one. He's been amazing. Justin Herbert, he's been doing the damn thing. And Tua last week looked good. I mean, week 1 didn't look great, but he really, turned it on. I think he got used to the NFL real quick, and I think if all these guys just keep on their current trajectory, man, you're going to be talking about 3 really good QBs and Jake Luton. We don't want to forget about Jake Luton. He's in there too. So we got that going. But here's one, since we're talking about the Raiders here. The Raiders. B plays hard.
That's Brian Hart.
I know. I can see his sexy picture in there. So he said he sent Josh Jacobs and Mike Evans for Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson. Thoughts? So, I mean, we talked about JT earlier. We don't think there's anything you need to panic about. And I honestly think this guy panicked a little bit. I mean, he picked up Mike Evans, which, God bless. I mean, I've been a big Mike Evans fan forever, but dude, it's just like, it's not looking like he's fitting into the new world order with Brady in there. Chris Godwin had more targets last week, and we'll talk about that game in a little bit. AB had more targets in that game. Mike Evans had himself a good game with what he got, but I feel like we're going to be saying that a lot. Like, oh, he had a good game considering what he got. So the fact that you were able to trade Mike Evans and you got Justin Jefferson, who was my wide receiver 2 in my unofficial rookie rankings. I love that dude. Yeah, man, that's a big win for me. Bill, you can probably add more insight, but I say big win.
Yeah, I think I like the Taylor Jefferson side. I don't necessarily think it's a big win. Like, I like Jacobs and his situation, being on a team that likes to run. So, like, I like his situation, but I don't think the difference between him and Taylor is that vast, and I think that getting rid of Mike Evans, like I hate to say it that way, but like that's the win. Like taking everything else out of it, just being able to move Mike Evans because he's virtually unmovable right now, and so that's the win there. And even if like in value you take a hit, I think you still win just because of that. And I don't necessarily know that's even the case, but I'd be really happy getting those two parts for those two parts. So,
Well,
yeah.
and that's why I think it's a big win, because I think Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor are pretty much even-ish. So then we're breaking it down. Mike Evans for Justin Jefferson. You know, Mike Evans, unfortunately, I don't know what is left as it concerns fantasy, but Justin Jefferson is on the up, man. I mean, we've seen the flashes, and he's going to be there for a while. And I think that eventually they're going to upgrade at the quarterback position from Kirk Cousins, who's fine. He's not a bad quarterback, but at some point you got to believe they're going to get a quarterback that can throw high volume and throw it effectively. And that's, I think, when you see the big blow up from Justin Jefferson. So B plays hard. You done good. You done good. Up and down, up and down. All right. So we're going to move on to the next one here, which is Dolphins and Cardinals. And that was a hell of a game, man. I watched parts of that game. That was a good game, man. Kyler Murray, 283 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. And then he goes for 106 yards rushing and a touchdown. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was late to the Kyler Murray party. But I've showed up and I brought a delicious dip for everyone who was already there to enjoy. So I hope you can all, just invite me in with open arms. It's a buffalo chicken dip. My wife made it. It's very delicious. Probably the best one you've ever tasted. So I hope you're all accepting of me, my lateness, and my dip, and we can move on. Bill's cracking up. Bill, is there anything else you pull from this game?
Nah, I mean, I'm a little interested to see how this is going to work between Christian Kirk and Hopkins. Like, it seems like Kirk has been getting a lot more targets in the last 3 weeks, and it's kind of coincided with him being healthier.
Yeah.
And so, how is that going to affect the ceiling for Hopkins? So it'll be interesting to watch that going forward. And Kyler, for as long as he's playing and running, because he is way more aggressive running this year, and it's just, I mean, he looks almost unstoppable running, and it's pretty impressive, and he's smart about it too. He slides early, he gets out of bounds. He has his limitations, of course, but just due to his height, he has a problem throwing in the middle of the field. But like they move him around and change those throwing windows and do all of that. I mean, he could be a very effective quarterback for a very long time, and so it'll be fun to watch him play. That whole offense is fun to watch, to be honest. And even now that they have Edmonds playing back there, he just looks like he's got a burst that wasn't there with Drake. So that's a fun offense to watch for sure.
And I love Kirk because I think they tried making Andy Isabella a thing as the deep guy. Everyone heard the story. Oh, DK Metcalf was taking 1 pick after Andy Isabella. So I think they were kind of forcing him into being that deep guy because they do like to bomb it 2 or 3 times a game. And Andy Isabella ain't it. I mean, sorry, Andy. I know you're a big listener of the show, but you ain't it. But Christian Kirk has been that guy. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. Kyler's throwing it deep. Oh, that's Christian Kirk. He's wide open. He's run. I mean, I saw him do it against the Cowboys. I saw him do it last week against the Dolphins. I mean, he's kind of become that guy. And that's not his only role. He can do everything else. But they've also now kind of given him that deep bomb play 2 times a game to try to do something with. So, yeah, I love Kirk. It was rough. The it was rough the first few weeks. I think he might have been battling injury or something like that. Now he's getting healthy, and he and Hopkins and Kyler and I mean, whew, I mean that offense is looking mighty nice. So we're gonna move it on here. Saints Bucks. Literally, my only response to that game is, what the hell happened? We were hype. We had Brady. Godwin was coming back from an injury. We got AB in the mix. Gronk has been hot. Can Mike Evans be that goal line guy? And dude, they put up a dud, and I guess it happens in the NFL sometimes. Just it's not your night, but wow, man, like, holy crap! I don't know what happened in that game, and it just didn't look good. Bill, I don't know if you had anything else.
Yeah, I think the biggest part to take out of that is when Brady struggles with pressure, and that's as most quarterbacks do. I'm not just saying it's him, but like when there's that pressure, when he starts to get a little rattled, you can see it. Like it's like a completely different Tom Brady, and he's right when he starts getting that first intentional grounding penalty, and he gets a lot of those in his career because it seems like he's just concerned about taking that hit, and I'd be interested to see like the percentage of intentional groundings like per pass for him compared to like other quarterbacks, because it seems like he does get a lot of those, and that maybe tells you a little bit that he's a little skittish when it comes to getting hit, especially at this age. Like, damn, if I was getting hit at my age, I'd be, yeah, I'm done. I'm retiring. Like it's just one of those things. Your body doesn't after 20 some years. Your body's got to be just at some point. All right, dude, let's stop this, and that probably gets into your head. So, it's not going to happen all the time. They have a really good pass rush, and they just happen to however they schemed it, they did it properly for this game. And so I actually with Brady, I'm still very much content to have him as my quarterback moving forward. If I'm a contender this year.
Yeah, and it's funny because in that team that Russ and I were talking about, I have Brady. It's a super flex, and Brady is my only quarterback that's currently playing. I have Andy Dalton, who should be starting this week for the Cowboys, and Mitch Trubisky, who should be starting for the Bears, but probably won't be. And that's it. So actually, while we've been doing the pod, I've been trying to yell at a guy who I sent an offer to. I'm trying to get Teddy Bridgewater, so I hope he responds before this comes out, so he doesn't hear that. But one guy I've been targeting. But yeah, listen, the Saints are a good team. They do have a good defense. They haven't always shown it this season, but they do have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. So this is not going to be an every week thing for Brady. He just, like you said, he felt that pressure, and he really kind of couldn't handle it. So we'll hope that better days are ahead for him. So Pats Jets, I forgot to write something in for this, but man, that was actually a pretty good game. It was close. The Patriots had to pull it out at the end to win and keep the Jets from gaining their first win, which I as a Cowboys fan, I was kind of hoping for, because I just want to keep slowly moving up the draft board there. So yeah, and that was, I didn't even talk about the Dallas game because that game was so crazy. I didn't even know who to talk about. So I just kind of said, I'm not even writing it down. I'm just going to leave it off because, they didn't play Connor that much. He was like in and out. Then Big Ben got hurt, but then came back out. It was nuts. But back to the Jets and the Patriots. Rex Burkhead, he had himself a game. Jacoby Meyer, Damiere Byrd. The problem is that I feel like everyone in all my leagues have been trying to trade these guys now after their one good week, and it's like, come on, guys! Like we've been watching football the whole season. We're not buying any of these guys for the price you want us to pay now because they had one good game. So, Bill, I don't know if there's anything else you saw out of that one, but
Nah, it was just two bad teams playing each other. I mean, let's be honest, New England is not good. And,
nope.
it's funny, like, after they won that game, they're like, oh, and, New England still staying in staying in the playoff hunt. I'm like, nah, that is not the case here. They are just,
That
they're
ain't
just
it.
not who they were, and this is just a rebuild year, and maybe next year, too, until they get their quarterback figured out.
Yeah, I thought they might be trying to lose in order to move themselves up the old draft board to try to get themselves in one of the top 3 QB territory, but they ended up winning that game at the end, so they move way back down. But all right, so those are all the games, but we got a good question here from our man Biscuit Baker 22. Should I trade Diggs and Chubb for Cook? I would give Diggs and Chubb. I also have Kamara and MT. So I have an idea about this, but Bill, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, that's a tough one, actually. It really depends on your depth at wide receiver, I think. I do like the having Cook Kamara combo. I mean, that's pretty dominant, but Chubb was a top 12 running back before he got hurt, and he's going to be coming back this week. And so I don't know it really depends on your wide receivers. Like, if Diggs is just if you have a wide receiver that's at least similar to Diggs, then absolutely I make that trade. Is this redraft also? Like, that's, I guess, the question I should have asked. But if it was redraft, I would definitely consider it if I have, like, another option that's similar to Diggs.
So, all right. So here are my thoughts on it. First of all, I'm glad that you have Kamara and Michael Thomas at the end of this because I actually want to switch this trade up a little bit. And this is honestly for me dynasty or redraft. I would actually take Diggs out of the trade and substitute him with Michael Thomas. I'm I'm worried long term about the kind of all the stuff that's been going on with Michael Thomas. He's fighting with teammates in practice, and he's kind of got these loud, these like explosive tirades on Twitter, and like I'm getting AB PTSD here, where it was kind of like AB, you never heard anything from him the first what half a decade he was in the league, 6 years, whatever it was he was in the league, and then one day all of a sudden that switch flipped, and it was like kind of like the point of no return. And I'm scared of Michael Thomas going down that same road. So if I can not get rid of, but if I can put Michael Thomas in the deal with Chubb, I'm a big Chubb guy. But man, Dalvin Cook, I feel like again, health permitting, Dalvin Cook is going to win you a championship this year. So, yeah, I mean, if the guy doesn't want Michael Thomas and it's Diggs and Chubb, yeah, do that too. But yeah, I'm definitely all in for getting Cook, excuse me, just because he's been insane. I was listening to somebody today. I'm sorry, I listen to too many podcasts. Uh, you know, Dalvin Cook is first in points per game, 27.1 points per game. Derrick Henry is number 3, and Derrick Henry is at a little over 18 points. So we're talking about, 8.5, 9 point swing just from 1 to 3. That's how dominant Dalvin Cook has been this year. So if I can get him on my team, I'm doing what I can for it. So Biscuit Baker, I hope it helps you out. And now we're gonna slide right into what we saw on the timeline. So this is from our man J Money Jarrett. Dynasty full PPR. Who you got? Lamb or Godwin? So here you go, Bill. The classic blue chipper versus the guy who's been doing it. Who do you got?
And that's so tough. Like we're. I don't even know how to answer this. Like, I love both of these players, and I love both of the players' situations. So it's like actually very close. So whoever I have, I'm probably holding. Like, it's just not even worth making that trade. Who do I like? So like if I'm Josh, I want CeeDee Lamb because I'm a Dallas fan, and that's the added bonus of taking one of those players. But honestly, like with me not having being a fan of either team, but I am a fan of both players. I'm happy with either of them, so I'm content just holding whoever I have.
Um, I agree with every word you said, Bill. For me personally, it's CeeDee Lamb, and I know the little extra juice that puts CeeDee Lamb over the top is the fact that I am a Cowboys fan. Um, I know he's going to be, connected with Dak. Yes, I know he's a free agent, whatever. I know Dak is coming back.
I don't think it matters.
I think it's been proven that Jerry Jones has seen what the team looks like without Dak Prescott, and I think that's going to be the reason why he gets. Unfortunately, an injury had to be the reason why Jerry Jones pays that man his money, but that he's just you could just tell that those first few weeks of the season when it wasn't Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert and these other guys throwing the ball that he's just special. He is, but you know what? So is Chris Godwin. Like let's not kid ourselves. We saw Chris Godwin healthy all last year with Jameis Winston, who by the way was throwing picks left, right, and center, was putting that team in bad positions, and he was still an elite wide receiver. So yeah, I mean, I say CeeDee Lamb, but it's only because that 1 or 2% that puts CeeDee Lamb over Chris Godwin is my fandom. But I mean, I'm with Bill, man. Like it makes no sense to trade one guy for the other guy unless you're getting a little juice on top of it. You're getting a second, or you're getting something like that. Besides that, keep your man and go like that. So this was a poll.
I just looked up like what their the DTC values are, and the difference between those two is like a third round pick. So
right. So exactly.
CeeDee Lamb just slightly more because of his age.
Exactly, and that's the only way I would do a deal like that. It wouldn't even make sense. Even if I was the Godwin owner, I don't see just trading him for Lamb, unless I was getting Lamb, and that third, and I understand that Lamb on DTC is the higher prospect, but doesn't make any sense to me to trade them straight up for each other because they're so similar. And the poll is pretty much saying the same thing here. 54% for Lamb and 46% for Godwin. So, I mean, that's really just about as close as you get on a Twitter poll. So, obviously, Twitter is split down the middle as well. So, this next one is from Guru Gub Crown at Gubberski. Flex this week. All right, I love the lineup questions. Flex this week. Full PPR. Thielen plays Chicago, and the others have pretty decent matchups. So he wants our opinion here. So 3 guys he's choosing from: Brandon Cooks versus Cleveland, Brandon Ayuk versus New Orleans, and Adam Thielen versus Chicago. So out of those 3 guys, Bill, I'll let you go first. Who you picking?
Well, the first person to rule out is Ayuk. I'm just not. New Orleans defense is pretty solid, and I think when Mullins gets rushed, he's gonna struggle a little bit. So he's the first guy I rule out. So it's between Thielen and Cooks, and for me, it's actually very close. Um, I think I actually lean Brandon Cooks here, but like I can't fault anybody for doing either of those two. Really, I mean, I just the erratic nature of the Minnesota offense, and even though Thielen is the wide receiver one, I'm just concerned that there's the game where Dalvin just goes insane and Cousins throws for 140 yards, and we just saw that 2 weeks ago. So I think I'd rather just go with the offense that's going to be passing the ball more, and for the 1A or 1B of that offense.
Yeah, so when I first looked at this question, I agreed with you, Bill. I went Brandon Cooks as well, but I'm someone, and this may be a weakness of mine when setting lineups, but when I see that guy that I know has the ability to put together a big game, I put them in my lineup. Sometimes it's to my benefit, sometimes it's to my detriment. But Adam Thielen, I understand that Chicago, I understand that defense is one of the best in the league. But man, just like we can imagine it being a Dalvin Cook game and Adam Thielen having like 2 receptions for 30 yards, like we could also see a game where he's 8 for 110 and 2 touchdowns. It's just like I get, and that's me. And honestly, I think the right answer is Bill's answer, but I'm going from just me, what I would do in this situation, and I think I would put Adam Thielen in. Now, I will say, Gub, that if you have a way to put them both in, I think that's maybe the better option. Obviously, I don't know who you have in your other spot, so it's hard for me to say that. But if these are flex spots, maybe you can work something out where Cooks or Thielen are in one of your wide receiver spots, and you put one of these guys in your flex spot. But yeah, so we got one vote for Cooks, one for Thielen, and last I checked this poll, Cooks was winning, and it was actually by a pretty hefty amount. He was winning 48% to 32% with the other percentage points going to Ayuk. So it looks like Twitter as a whole is with Bill on this one, Brandon Cooks, and you know what? Can't argue with anybody who goes that route. So we got one more question. We're gonna hit this one on a philosophical question here. This is from David St. Dennis at DST Dennis. I'm in a fantasy league that already has 60% of the teams going to the playoffs. They now want to let all the teams into the playoffs because, in quotes, it's been a crazy year with COVID. What are your thoughts on what I think is ridiculous? So this was a poll, and I'm gonna shout out what the poll and the numbers are because we're gonna talk about the philosophy behind this more than anything else. So it was great idea, bad idea. Bad idea, 95% to 5%. So obviously, mostly everyone thinks it's a bad idea. But Bill, I commission a league, you commission multiple leagues. And this is something, and I hope David listens after this, because we were talking about this during the off season when it was, we didn't even know if there was going to be a season, but you and I were talking about the things that as commissioners we needed to do in order to protect ourselves from situations where, hey, COVID is going to be crazy. COVID might, shut the season down early. COVID might shut the season down altogether. COVID might get games delayed and rescheduled. Like basically, we were watching this with baseball. An entire series would be wiped out, and then they would be playing, 17 double headers in a row to make the games up. So we, had kind of a little bit of a blueprint with baseball. But you and I both, for all the leagues that we commission, we wrote, we have bylaws. First of all, if you're in a league, you commission a league, write up bylaws, just rules of the road, lets everybody know where they stand. Obviously, there are going to be situations you can't account for, but, there's a basic overview. And honestly, you can ask a ton of people on Twitter. There's probably websites that have, bylaws written out that you can kind of copy and paste and mend and fix to your own league. But we made amendments to those bylaws that said, hey, like certain amount of weeks have to be played in order for money to get paid. What's going to happen to money if the season is cut early and there's no definitive winner? Are we rolling it over to next year? Are we paying people back their money? And we went through all of this, and extra IR spots, extra bench spots. So that should have been something that was done already. And hey, maybe part of the amendments were, hey, if 4 games get rescheduled, everybody makes it to the playoffs. Whatever. At least it's something that everyone could sit and look at and understand and discuss and talk about. It seems like in this situation, none of that stuff is going on, and now a commissioner is just kind of saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's let everybody in." And I don't think that's right. Just because, first of all, I think way too many of your teams make the playoffs in the first place. I mean, my cutoff for me personally, my cutoff is like 50%. 6 out of if you're in a 12-team league, 6 out of 12 teams make it. I think even that's a little high, but that's kind of where I say, all right, like I can't have 60% of teams in a league that I run make it to the playoffs. But now to let everyone into the playoffs, it just seems like you're just playing more head-to-head weeks, more than like an actual playoff. Like, yes, I get teams advance and so on and so forth, but it just doesn't make sense to me that in week 10, I mean, we're going into week 10 here, that we're just deciding that we're going to let everybody in. I think this is something that should have been discussed during the off season, because now, I mean, literally a team that maybe strolls into the playoffs at 2-9, 2-10 can win the whole thing just because they get kind of on a hot streak and they win 3 games in a row. It seems like the rest of the season then is invalidated. But those are my opinions. Bill, what do you think?
I think it's really cut and dry that there's 2 possible situations here, and it's either you have a corrupt commissioner or you have an inexperienced commissioner. Those are the only 2 possibilities. The corrupt commissioner is not in the playoffs and wants to make the playoffs, and so they decide they want to make this rule. The inexperienced commissioner hears a bunch of members from the league complaining because it's been a crazy year, and they're not strong enough yet to just say no. And so those are the 2 options. I think it's very cut and dry. You're going to know more than Josh or I am going to know, but pretty much those are really your only 2 options. So if you believe that it's the first one, then I am out of that league. Or there's a mutiny and you bounce that commissioner out of the league, and you guys either take over that league or you just start a whole new one. Like, those are really the 2 things that this whole situation is. And I agree with Josh. All of that, like, looking at it from an innocent view, but it's truly just down to these 2 situations, in my opinion. And your reasoning is perfectly sound, but I think it's very much. I truly think it's probably an inexperienced commissioner, because otherwise, if you're an experienced commissioner and you're corrupt, you know that that's not going to happen, right? Like, that's just not possible. So I think it's just an inexperienced person. Give them the benefit of the doubt, unless they've done other shady stuff in the past, and just hope that got resolved properly and you just move on. And I get it. If it's probably a 10-team league, right? And the option is you have 4 teams make the playoffs or 6, so that's why they have 60% of the teams making it. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It's pretty cut and dry, though. It's wrong. You should not be doing that unless it's in your bylaws.
Yeah, and Bill, as always, bringing in a good point, and bringing in a point I didn't even think of, because I was looking at this more from just kind of like the meta, just kind of, hey, like, it doesn't make any sense to do this, but Bill was in that micro level, really analyzing the commission self or herself, and I agree. There's really not any other way you can describe it. I mean, either this is a commish who is in 8th place, 9th place, trying to find themselves a way into the playoffs, or, it's a commish that isn't used to people, probably a lot of people are saying, hey man, I've lost 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys. Half my team has, been injured, has been, on the COVID list, has been this and that. And why, you know, why don't we all just get in? Why don't we all have fun? Whatever the excuses are. And, you know, that commission has not been around long enough to just be like, no, because that's not what we're doing. And hey, listen, Bill's a commish, I'm a commish. We've been through this before. Like we've had to say no, we've had to be unpopular, and that's sometimes what it is. So we got one last question. Chase under the gun threw this out here, so I want to get him on here. So Chase Hogan, if I have Lockett and Metcalf, should I trade Lockett? My answer is no. I mean, both guys are wide receiver 1 or have wide receiver 1 talent. And I don't trade that guy just because I have the other guy. Now, if somebody makes me an awesome offer, I'll trade anybody. But I'm not trading Lockett just to trade him, or just because I have DK Metcalf. I'll keep both of those guys. We talked about this earlier on the episode. Russ believes that, both of these guys are going to start getting kind of more of an even amount of targets again. This is just the ebb and flow where right now DK Metcalf is kind of in the captain's chair, but, it's probably going to even out just because, hey, they're letting Russ cook. So, Bill asked in the chat is a really good question. Is this redraft? Bill, does this change your mind if it's redraft? Are you more open to trading Lockett?
So I'm more open to trading Lockett in Dynasty. Like in redraft, I think that it depends on your wide receivers too. Like I mean, it's such a there's so many questions that need to follow up for this, right? Like, this vacuum thing, like we just don't know, right? Like I don't know your depth chart. I don't know all of that kind of stuff. Do you have if you think trading Lockett to add a running back to help you, in the playoffs because you have extra wide receivers, then absolutely I trade Lockett. If I'm a dynasty, I probably wouldn't. I'd be okay trading Lockett. He's getting a little older. I think he's 28. His value, regardless, is going to start dropping, and so I think that depending on where your team's at in dynasties. So like it's just one of those things that like these are such hard questions to answer. But no, I'm not just trading Lockett solely because I have Metcalf. Like I'm not making that decision because, like Josh said, they're both wide receiver 1s overall, and if you play them both, you're going to get on average wide receiver 1 overall from both of them. So, like, yeah, I think that I'm okay keeping both of them, but I don't mind trading them either.
And you're right, Bill. Lockett turned 28. Looks like week 3 or week 4 of the season. So he is 28. So. All right, so that was a good final question to end on. Listen, thank you guys for being in the chat, man. You guys were awesome. So many good questions. Chase with a good one. Biscuit Baker with a good one. We had Josh earlier with a good one. Trey with a good one. Appreciated our man Brian Harr, of course, coming through with a good one as well. You guys make it great, man. I mean, you guys, the questions are awesome. It makes us think, it puts us on the spot, and you get some real answers from us because we got to do it on the spot, man. And it's kind of, these are how we have to make decisions sometimes when it comes to setting lineups and, making trades. Sometimes we're just, hey, what's in our gut? What does the knowledge tell us that we have? So appreciate you guys for that. If you're watching this on YouTube, just remember to hit subscribe, hit the bell. It'll let you know when we're coming live, and you also get access to all the other DAP Network stuff. So when other members of DAP, the Trade Addicts, the Junkies, Casey Kasem, whenever they do something on that, you get that too, man. So it's not just us. It's so many people who are way smarter than me on that same level with Bill. So you just getting access to a lot of smart people when you do that. You know what? If you're listening to us on podcast, thank you too, man. That's important. We love the people that listen to us on podcasts. You guys are great. Remember, if somehow you just found us and you're not subscribed, subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. I always say, steal grandma's phone. Get her to subscribe. She's not going to know anyway. And do that. And then remember to rate and review too, man. That helps us out so much. It gets us out there, lets other people see us. And, you know, we appreciate that feedback, and we thank you guys. We thank you guys. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. You could have been doing anything else, and you decided to spend it with us, listening to us, and that's super important. So on that note, Bill, we're out of here, man.
Late.